My name is Kate. I will do an audio reading of The Power of Ted. It is an empowerment book. It basically teaches you how to behave better. It's an escape the grip of life's drama and take control of your life for those who are interested. My name is Kate. I am new to YouTube and I do like to read books, so let's begin. Chapter 1, A Fateful Meeting. From the bench where I sat overlooking the beach, it seemed I could see forever. The ocean spread out in a blue expanse, undulating its way into infinity. I never said I was a good reader or speech. I am nervous because this is my first time. So let's start that over. From the bench where I sat overlooking the beach, it seemed I could see forever. The ocean spread out in a blue expanse, undulating its way into infinity. Yet, I couldn't really enjoy it. Instead, inside I was constricted. The surf, some 100 feet below the bluff on which my bench sat, normally would have sounded soothing. Its calm was lost on me as I struggled with an instant emptiness inside. It had been particularly a painful period. The bloom was indeed off the rose. A couple of years ago, my wife and I had brought the perfect suburban starter home, nothing lacking but the white picket fence we had envisioned as the place to start our family for so long. We had dreamed about having children. Then months after the untimely death of my dad, with whom I had been very close, we'd received a word from our doctor that I was infertile. That's sad. Not only had I lost my dad, but now I felt that I was a victim of my biology. To my mind, the link between generations, first between me and my dad, and now between me and the child I had dreamed of fathering, was permanently shattered. After months of anguishing over options, my wife entered her grief and withdrew from our fragile marriage, unwilling to consider adoption or medical alternatives. Feeling abandoned and alone, I descended into despair as we separated and eventually divorced. I was bereft. Everywhere I looked, my life hurt. Tears filled my eyes, and the beauty of the beach before me became even more obscured. I had always assumed I would have a family when the time was right, and that the marriage vows of in good times and bad would see us through any trials and tribulations. Not so. The time, it seemed, was never, and the vow proved to be conditional. I lived a good moral and ethical life. The question swirled and tumbled through my mind. What sort of karma is this? What seeds have I sown to reap this unjust penalty? Why me? The void felt as big as the sea before me. I took my pen from the clasp of my leather-bound journal and opened it to a new page. This repository of my thoughts and questions and yearnings had been a constant companion over the years. Journaling had become a way of processing my experiences, and I was grateful for the insights that often emerged. As I wrote, emotions washed over me, and my rational mind found its still, small voice. Instead of answering my questions, it simply whispered that this was the hand I had been dealt. Life was challenging, me to find a way through what seemed to be a life of powerlessness and victimization. We've been there, right? In this struggle between heart and head, inwardly, I cried out to spirit. I'm sick and tired of feeling so small, and in that moment I chose to surrender my stance as victim. But for the life of me, I didn't know what to replace it with. What? I wrote. It is opposite of victim. What is the opposite of victim? If the crashing waves contained my answer, I didn't understand its language. In that moment, I closed the journal and returned the pen to the holder that served as a clasp. Closing my eyes, I breathed deeply, savoring the salt air. Again, I inquired, what is the opposite of victim? This time, the response was immediate. Creator, the inner voice announced. The opposite of victim is creator. I felt a chill course up my spine, and I took a deep, full breath of sea air. Suddenly, there emerged a feeling I had not had in a very long time. A fresh sense of hope began to make itself known. I sat for a few precious moments, drinking in the sounds of the surf and the release that accompanied the revelation of this new and different way of being in the world. I wondered, what does it mean to know that the opposite of victim is creator? What do I do now? I knew I had to stay open and receptive to whatever guidance might be forthcoming. A new friend. I don't know how many minutes I sat there, enveloped by the sounds and the scents of the sea, before I heard a faint sound of footsteps on a sandy path leading up to the beach. When I opened my eyes again, I saw that someone had silently joined me on my seaside bench. He sighed. What a sight. It's hard not to be inspired from his vantage point, wouldn't you say? All I could do was nod. I managed a slight smile. Hi, I'm Ted, he said, extending his hand. Mind if I sit here? I don't mean to intrude. I shook his friendly, and strangely familiar hand. David, I simply said. I had come to that bluff overlooking the sea to contemplate, to try to make sense out of the unexpected twists and turns my life had taken. It seemed that a new choice was being offered to me. Though I was anything but clear about what it all meant, my emotions were caught in a cross current between grief and hope. Despite the new direction I had been given from within, I felt disoriented. And now, here was this friendly stranger beside me. He had a walking stick, more like a staff, that he held with both hands between his knees. I couldn't tell if he was fashioned from the bench or if it was fashioned from a branch of a tree, or if it had been a long piece of driftwood that may have washed up on the beach. In any case, it was worn smooth except for a few knots, and it appeared like dark eyes along a shaft. We sat there in silence for a long time. I didn't know it yet, but I had just met a teacher who would help me answer some of the most important questions in my life. It was the beginning of getting to know Ted. "So what brings you here to this bench and this magnificent moment?" he asked. A fair question, I thought. But who is this guy? Why should I tell a stranger what was going on with me? There was a quiet expectancy in his presence, as if he knew I had something to share. Yet there was a spaciousness that put no pressure on me to speak right away. I sensed that I could wait 5 seconds, 5 minutes, or 5 hours. Time was not of the essence. What was on my mind and heart was, there was a comfort I felt. He seemed so friendly, and his question was certainly an open invitation. I ventured forth. "Oh, I've come here to think. Just to sit and reflect. It's good to do from time to time. It's all too easy to run through life without reflecting. Life's lessons can be lost if you never pause. What a beautiful place to come and take stock." "Yes, it is," I replied. "Though I have to admit I sometimes lose sight of all its beauty when I get caught up in my own drama." "Oh yes, drama," Ted remarked. "That seems to be such a big part of the human experience. Look at all these people walking on the beach. Every one of them probably has some sort of drama going on in their lives. They all have their stories. What, if I may ask, is yours?" "I don't mean to intrude. I am just curious." Then it all spilled out. I told him about everything. My recent divorce, the death of my dad. I even told him about my infertility. He nodded, encouraging me. I didn't detect even an ounce of judgment coming from Ted, or pity, for that matter.